alone to take the victory. He'd already distanced Isabit on that top section before Isabit broke his shoe. Joris Nieuwenhuis coming home in third spot, and Ailey Isabit leads with 86 points over Nieuwenhuis and Niels van der Putten, but there was a top 10 breakthrough ride from Ward Hoops and Thibaut Del Grosso. We're down on the start line. We are under the floodlights in this one of the most but Joris Nieuwenhuis, Niels van der Putten, Michael van Turenhout, Mathieu van der Poel, Kevin Kuhn and Vitsen Meyusen will be your front row. Behind them, I'll just pick out a few riders. Thomas Mean is on the second row with Tom Pidcock and Scott Funston. We go back to row 3. Ward Hoops is on that row with Landerlocks, Aaron Docks and Marcel Meissen amongst others. We are under orders here in Diegem for the night race. There's Thomas Mean in the green on second row. Vitsen Meyusen here getting a front row start. Mathieu van der Poel on your extreme left in that rainbow jersey. Tom Pidcock on the second row. Everyone's got to be careful because, as we said, this is Mathieu van der Poel's playground. Watch the lights. There's Sven Nys. We'll see what the Baloise Trek Lions can do today. There's Tom Pidcock. You can see second row there, alongside Thomas Mean in the green. While the commissaire gives the riders their orders, I'll just go a few rows back. Darnell Moore is on row 6. Row 5, got Ben Chilton, Felipe Nystrom, Tom Meyusen, Gary Milburn. Row 7, watch the lights though. We're under orders. Van der Poel, extreme right. We are green, we are go in the Telenex Super Prestige Series. As you would expect, Mathieu van der Poel getting a great start. On the other side, though, it looks like Thibaut Nys and Kevin Kuhn getting a great start, but it's the Swiss man, Ian, that gets the whole shot through the first corner.
It certainly is. Everyone away pretty well. No mishaps from the front couple of rows. Pidcock with a decent start, much better starting position than any of the races we've been so far from him. Back maybe around about 15th right now, but much, much better than kind of the 4th row starts that we've seen him have to put up with at previous races this season.
You can see it just all comes together through this section. Everyone off and running. As only the first couple of riders, Kevin Kuhn being one of them, that managed to stay on the bike. It's Kevin Kuhn that leads out. Thibaut Nys, the high line in the red and blue there of Baloise Trek Lions. Michael van Turenhout getting a good start for Power Sows and Bingo. Tom Pidcock, unfortunately, was that Van der Putten that went down on the off-camber. Pidcock's been shuffled back slightly. He'll want to try and get himself up towards the front as quickly as possible. Just that low line there, Ian. It's such a gamble, isn't it? There's 2 really narrow ledges that you can ride.
Those top lines are definitely better, but in the early laps, as people slow down on those, perhaps gambling ever so slightly, dropping low to try and make up some positions, but there just isn't that ledge there. And that Alpecin de Koning rider went down, Landerlocks, Thomas Mean held up by that one, but Van der Poel slots into, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th position right now. No sign of Pidcock in that leading group.
Yeah, Gioli Bertolini is also there. Was it Quentin Hermans, perhaps, that went down? It looks like the blue there of Quentin Hermans, and the camera just going back, it is. Everyone just coming off the bridge. You can see how fast this course here in Diegem is if you're joining us for the first time this evening. Some slight tweaks and changes to the course have made it even faster than previous years. But already, Ian, some of those issues that riders are having behind, it looks like a few riders have been distanced from this front group, and it looks like Tom Pidcock potentially is one of them.
Looked like he was just in
he's
the
there.
bottom of our screen, just making his way back on. But Hermans, I had him noted down as a bit of an outsider today for a podium. Won here twice as an under-23, 7th last year from a pretty poor gridding as well. So he'll be thoroughly disappointed to go down early, have to have a bike change, and probably put himself out of contention ever so slightly. They're on to the main climb For the first time, Pidcock moves up onto the wheel of Van der Poel, but Michael Van Turnhout doing a good job for his team leader, series leader Ellie Isabet. 86 points, moves into second place.
Tom Pidcock keeping himself up there. Was catching up with our colleague Matt Stevens' interview ride that he did with Tom Pidcock. It's absolutely hilarious. It's on his YouTube channel. Go and check that out. But it was a really good insight into Tom Pidcock, how he races, and also his mindset and how he feels coming into these races, and knowing that he's got to be with Van der Poel when he goes. And one of the pre-race interview tonight as well, they were saying to him, you know, is it just second that you're racing for? And Tom himself was saying, you know, if you can go, if you can, from that less than favourable start, because if you're not on that front row, as long as you can make it through the traffic as he's done here, you've got to be with Van der Poel when he goes. Because anyone that's tuning into cross for the first time this season and hasn't seen the way Van der Poel is riding, we said it this week many times, he's riding better than we've ever seen him.
He is. He just seems to make that move, one or two really hot laps, and then he just controls the gap. And the gaps at the finishes haven't been huge, around 30, 45 seconds perhaps, but always felt like he's completely in control. But right now, Thibaut Nice riding well, doesn't want those two Palshausen teammates together as they enter the sandpit. For the first time, Pidcock and Van der Poel taking notes from the women's race, heading to the right-hand side of the pit.
Yeah, Marie Schreiber was getting a great line down the right-hand side of the sandpit. Pidcock doing the same. He's off and running. Van der Poel stays on the bike. Isabet comes through to the front. It was interesting watching the warm-up hours ago before we came on air, because Mathieu Van der Poel was warming up and Thibaut Nice was with him, and you could see that Thibaut was just sitting behind Van der Poel, just taking notes, watching the line, seeing what he was doing, seeing how he was just checking out the course. And that in itself is invaluable, as Thomas Mean has a bit of an issue through the plank. But that in itself is invaluable for especially for someone like Thibaut.
Definitely, if you can follow any of the big champions on their pre-ride, might get a small insight into where they're faster, what lines they're taking, etc. So, yeah, make small notes of that and take those into your race.
Florian Vermeers, we're getting a glimpse of him tonight. They're going back quite far to see the progress of Quentin Hermans. So Hermans, unfortunately, that tumble for him. They're going to pick him out, see if he can pick his way through the field. If you're joining us for the first time, it's lap one here on the night race in Diegem, and it's series leader Elie Isabet as they start that descent just across the streets, who leads the group ahead of teammate Michael Van Turnhout, who comes up towards the front. Thibaut Nice there for the Baloise Trek Lions. Mathieu Van der Poel, Tom Pidcock. A little bit of a bobble there from Joris Nieuwenhuis. And then you have Witsemajusen is well up towards the front. Van Turnhout, it's fair to say, he's had a season, apart from that big win in the European Championships, he's had a season to forget so far. He didn't finish yesterday.
No, I think I was making notes earlier today about all the different riders. I think one of the main notes from him was 4 did not finishes this season, including yesterday. So, yeah, not having the season he would have wanted, but winning such a big championship, the European Championship, then kind of who cares about the rest of the time? He just needs to get back in form for the World Championships, the National Championships coming up January, February, very important months. And interesting to see what he's doing today, taking it out, whether he's trying to do a job for Elie Isabet tonight or whether his own ambitions are back to the fore.
Yeah, it's going. We'll come up through the steps, and you remount at the top of the steps and head up towards the line. So it's Michael Van Turnhout that's going to lead through from Thibaut Nice. Mathieu Van der Poel just zipping up his jersey. Elie Isabet, Joris Nieuwenhuis, Witsemajusen, Tom Pidcock, Kevin Kuhn, Ward Hoops, Niels van der Putten, Giorli Bertolini going through ahead of Lander Locks, Thomas Mean, Mikkel Boros, Lars Juria, Mace Hendricks going through ahead of Federico Cheolin. And we're just keeping an eye down through the field here at Quentin Hermans just to see where he is in that recovery from the crash. Thibaut Nice staying on, so does Isabet, as does Pidcock, just hand-slinging themselves off those barriers and the course markers. Boros up there. Czech champion wearing 15. Red and blue jersey. Michael Van Turen out now onto this off camber. You can see the line that you've got to pick. You've got to kind of tiptoe your way along those narrow ledges. Mayusen loses the back wheel, gets out of the line, out of the flat section, and just saw his back wheel in there just slide away from him.
Yeah, the tricky technical cambered section is so important to carry your speed off of that camber. It's the main muddy section of the course afterwards, and if you can carry speed through there, then you can kind of really make up a lot of time or put time into your competitors. So a very important small part of the course there.
Emil Verstringer there, just ahead of Nieuwenhuis. Ward Hoops go through. Michael Van Turen out on this opening lap. Well, his second lap rather means business here.
He does. I can't help but feel that he is maybe just trying to make someone else chase, allow Elizabeth to sit in the wheels in these early laps. It's very, very windy, although like big crowds and the course is based in the towns, not super exposed, but what can happen, it kind of funnels what wind there is into the riders' faces, and that main climb that they'll be hitting very, very soon on the road is a headwind, so it does nullify things ever so slightly. In previous editions, we've seen that with a raging tailwind, and it makes for a really good launch pad for an attack. But with that headwind, it's going to make it very difficult for riders to really shake anyone out of the draft, off of the wheel on that next climb.
Yeah, about 10 degrees Celsius this evening, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 29 to 33 kilometre an hour southwesterly wind, which means we had a headwind up here earlier on today. We have gusts of 51 to 52 kilometres an hour. So a tough night out here. Mikkel Boros just on to the back of that group. And then we do have a bit of a gap. But from front, it's Van Turen out, Isabit, Pidcock, Nieuwenhuis, Nace, Van der Poel, Verstringer, Locks, Bertolini moving up. Kevin Kuhn still in that group. Landa Locks in those light blue Tour de Titema colours. Nieuwenhuis moves up on the outside. Thomas Mean in the green of Hope Factory Racing on the back of the group. And with Mikkel Boros. And then also still in that group, Niels van der Putte in the blue. And Witsum Jusen is the last rider on that group. We've got a bit of a bunch, bit of a criterium going on tonight in Diegem.
We have. No one wants to take it on into that headwind just because they know how much of an advantage it is for the riders behind sat on the wheel. So I think we're going to get a regrouping there most laps, and then a race for this next section of the course, because it leads into a narrow wooded section, and it's not far away from the vital sand pit and the planks as well before they drop all the way back down into town.
Good to see Thibaut Nace back at the front. He had such a strong start to the season, and then as we were told to expect from a young rider, his form has dipped and he's building back up into the second half of the season.
Yeah, he took that form that he'd built up on the road, riding for that Little Trek World Tour team with some excellent results on the road this season. Carried that form in, and yeah, was probably a little bit above where I expected him to be. And I think he probably surprised himself a little bit. What do we see here? Michael Boros, chain off. As I was saying, he was a little bit above where we probably expected him to be, but just showed the class of rider that he is. And then the form dipped off ever so slightly, and he's building back up, and yeah, just going a little bit deeper and deeper into the races. Van der Poel doesn't want to take this one on too early.
No, he's looking calm tonight, isn't he? The world champion. Ooh, a Stringer bails out, pulls the ejector cord there in the middle. Manages to save that one. There's Van der Putte. Jolly Bertolini as well, and the yellow and blue has had a good start. Tom Pidcock trying to just take that same line as Van der Poel. But look at the power of Van der Poel through the sand. He's sort of interviews that and things that we're hearing out of the Alpecin de Koenig team, that he's moved as Tom Pidcock now comes through towards the front. That Van der Poel's now moved himself down to Spain. And benefiting from that warm weather. That's what they're saying is a big part of why they feel he's on such great form. Tom Pidcock carrying good speed though. Oh, there's a replay there of Emil Verstringer. Tom Pidcock deciding he's going to take this one up on the front here.
Tailwind all the way down this descent, so kind of a little bit of a freebie as such. The riders behind not getting such a huge advantage as going into the headwind on the climb. So just pressing on and just wants to test things ever slightly. I'm sure all of these riders just want to kind of gradually whittle this leading group down, because they don't want a group of 15, 20 riders. You can easily get swamped going into one of those technical sections, and then if someone attacks at the front, it can be kind of race over. So very important to be in a good position almost all the way around this course, because the technical sections come one after another with small punctuated sections of road, which are super fast and hard to move up any big amount of places. So Pidcock just keeping the pressure on and trying to reduce this front group down ever so slightly, but they're coming round now to complete lap 2 already.
And he's shaken the group and he's taken it down to just himself, Isabit, Van Turenhout, Van der Poel and Nace, with Verstringer not far off the back, with Nieuwenhuis and Hoops on that bottom corner. Tom Pidcock was in this position last year. It was Wout van Aert that took the win ahead of Tom Pidcock and Mathieu Van der Poel, who pulled his foot out in the sprint last year, didn't he? So Nieuwenhuis, Hoops, then Bertolini and Lotz is your top 10. Niels van der Putte goes through just ahead of Kuhn, Mean, and then Vetimius and Quentin Hermans now up to 15th already.
Hermans and Ferdinand are on the move. There were two riders that I had an eye on. They're highlighted on my start list as riders that would go well on this course, so they're kind of living up to that, but around about that 20, 30 seconds back. Florian Vermeersch coming up to the line, doing a good ride.
28th for Florian Vermeersch so far. Silver medalist in the World Gravel Champs. A bit of a rising star, Vermeersch, as Thibaut Nace gets wild through that section.
I thought Pidcock might have a slight gap. No, carried good speed off of that camber, but then here we see that good line from Pidcock. Managed to stay high and carry speed down, but he must have had a problem after that right-hand corner, but continues with it anyway.
Elisabeth and Tom Pidcock, arch rivals through their junior and U23 years. Thibaut Nace on the back. Well, was a Trek Lions. That mistake of Verstringer's taken him off the back. Nieuwenhuis has got some work to do. Elisabeth, 86 points to Joris Nieuwenhuis, and Niels van der Putte 61. So he's just got to keep it. He pretty much had it out of sight already, unless he had an absolute disaster here and in Middelkerke. This is the penultimate round of the Telenet Super Prestige Series. 15 points for the win, 14 for second, 13 for third, down to 1 point for 15th place for Pidcock, Van der Poel, Thibaut Nace. No, not interested in the GC overall. It's just about the victories and what they're getting in what we could call now their microcross seasons. The Big Three, as they are of course known. We will get to see the Big Three a few times this season. So the Big Three head-to-head, when Wout van Aert will drop in on Hulst this weekend, then the 4th of Jan in Koksijde, and then the 21st of January in Benidorm. But at the moment, this leading group and this wind is really playing a factor this evening, Ian.
It is. Pidcock gets to the bottom of the climb and doesn't want to continue all in. We see Verstringer, Nieuwenhuis and Wardhoops coming back to that leading group. Landon Locks, Bertolini doing a good ride as well. See how hard he's working to try and make it back to that leading group. But as you're saying, that headwind just nullifying everything each time on that climb.
Wardhoops gets back in there. Hoops over the last couple of days with Thibaut Del Grosso yesterday. We're really seeing the arrival of another couple of names. This is a bit Van der Poel moving up. Tom Pidcock's just controlling the pace on the front here. Just looking around, little acceleration when he needs to, just to keep himself in that front position. It's almost like the elimination race on the track. It's like the devil takes the hindmost here with the inside. Just trying to keep that inside line, keep that front line if he can, and just manage everyone moving up and around him.
Very, very cagey given that win tonight. So, yeah, everyone wants to wait and wait and wait, and perhaps come the last 20 minutes of racing, really throw down and try and make a gap, because all the time there's a group behind that can work together. Then they can work together to bring back kind of a solo rider. But Michael van Turnhout now putting in a dig, coming up to the sandpit once again. Interesting to see who can ride it this time.
Mathieu van der Poel moving up and starting to get the glimpses of a move here. Moves over the top of Pidcock. Van der Poel, we've seen, has been the Sandman so far in the races that he's ridden. Tom Pidcock doesn't quite seem to have a measure of the sand yet here this evening, but Michael van Turnhout powers through the sand. The European champion in that white jersey in front of that world champs jersey. Pidcock has to remount. It's the sand is not playing ball tonight for Pidcock. Shake of the head.
No, in his interview the other day, he said the sand is a real problem for him, the huge power and the technique that he hasn't been able to practice as much. Verstringen nearly gets taken out by Nieuwenhuis there. Just a little bit slower over there. Nieuwenhuis so fast at hopping the barriers, those planks this season, just catching people out. But as I was saying, Pidcock knows that sand is an area of weakness, and that pit proving a big problem for him that lap.
Michael van Turnhout not wanting to press on without Eli Iserbyt. You would see the two Pau-Salzen bingo riders. Iserbyt comes over the top of Thibaut Nace. Ward Hoops right on the wheel. Nace now moves up to try and get back up to that leading group. Eli Iserbyt perhaps would, you would say, allow van Turnhout to go clear. The chasers could three containing Pidcock. Need to try and get in here. Pidcock, if he can use this descent and Joris Nieuwenhuis to try and get back into contention here, he'll need to try, and if he can get back up here, Tom Pidcock will need to try and get a gap into the sand to have any chance of winning this one this evening.
Yeah, it looks like he's just lacking that kind of raw, explosive power of a pure cross rider right now. A little bit of technique as well that goes into that sand riding, but yeah, it just looks like when it's all about watts, he's struggling. All the time it's still watts per kilo, very, very good, but those pure watts needed to drive through that very deep sand, he's just struggling ever so slightly. But you see the general fitness is there. He's able to gap riders on normal sections of the course and ride back up to that leading group.
And from the way that Van der Poel is hitting the sand this year, is that, again, just instinctive cross technique that he's always had? Maybe living down in Spain now, you can just pedal around on the beach and just do that sand, or is it just pure raw power that Van der Poel is adopting in the sand this season?
It's definitely a bit of both. If you have raw power, then the technique can be not quite as good, and vice versa. If you have very, very good technique, you can lack a little bit of power and get away with it, sort of thing. But here goes Ward Hoops on the attack.
Ward Hoops leads through the line ahead of Michael van Turnhout and Eli Iserbyt. He really is making a name for himself. The last couple of races is Ward Hoops did a great ride yesterday. We've seen him over the last couple of seasons get great starts in races, and now it's all about trying to deliver it throughout the entire race. Bit of an issue there, just going sideways into the barrier. That's Mario Junqueira. Just ahead there, Florian Vermeers. Ward Hoops is the confidence of Ward Hoops that we're seeing over the last couple races. It's great to see the young rider just having that confidence to take on the likes of Van der Poel and Iserbyt.
It really is. As I said yesterday in commentary, I had Thibaut Del Grosso down as kind of a highlighted rider. Ward Hoops was definitely on the start list, and you kind of look and think, yeah, they're potentially a top 10, top 15 rider in the elite category, but way above beyond that, and having the confidence to throw down attacks in a leading group like this, just brilliant to see.
I mean, he's 21 years old, and sort of outside of the podiums at Europeans as a youngster. He's been up there in World Cups. He's podiumed in World Cups. He did that in Antwerp this year. He's had some seconds, so it's been really steady progress. He's had 4 pro wins as well in sort of lower rank, sort of C2 races. But seeing him up there, he seems to be one of those riders, and you do see it, you know, that young riders that don't set the world on fire as a junior and win world titles and under 23 world titles, and it isn't until they get up there and start racing as a pro that they find their feet, find their power.
Definitely, it's that kind of age that riders develop very differently physically and mentally. You see some second-year juniors still look like kind of underdeveloped young boys, and some look like fully grown men. So it's that kind of age where, yeah, we all develop very, very differently, and some of us develop a little bit later, and Ward Hoobs is perhaps one of those riders that's just coming of age and showing really strongly. Just as you're talking about, another bike change for Quinton Hermans, who was making really good progress. He was up into the top 15 that time round, but yet another bike change of him, another bike problem, perhaps not comfy on that second bike that he had to change onto after that first lap crash. Ladder locks on the back of the leading group, Downs the gel.
Michael Van Turenhout moves up. Are we seeing the accumulation of this week's racing as we get to this point? Because it's so busy, isn't it, that even if you do sit out a day and race, they're probably still out on the bike, just still doing the training. And we're seeing a completely different type of race here this evening.
Partly the wind, partly the packed kind of program of racing. And you get the feeling that everyone wants to win, but almost win by using the least amount of energy possible each day. So we saw it yesterday, Wout van Aert being a little bit cagey, throwing down kind of come the last 2-3 laps, and probably got similar today. The headwind on that main climb, helping that kind of tactics to kick in as well.
Nieuwenhuis just on the back. Ooh. That Ward Hoobs had an issue. Michael Van Turenhout leading out from Mathieu van der Poel. Tom Pidcock up there. Emil Verstringer recovering from that issue that he had over the planks. There's Lander Locks just going through. So it's Van Turenhout, Van der Poel, Isabets, Pidcock, Verstringer, Thibaut Nace, Joris Nieuwenhuis, Ward Hoobs and Lander Locks. It's your top 10. Thibaut Nace just moving up over the top of Emil Verstringer as they hit the sand. Van der Poel goes right. Van Turenhout, also a rider that's got great power. Look at matching power for power here with Van der Poel, who attacks out of the sand. This is the moment for Mathieu van der Poel. Van der Poel drops the big power as everyone else behind looks around. The world champion goes. Look at the speed that he carries through his hops, and it's only Michael Van Turenhout that can stay with him. Blistering attack now from Mathieu van der Poel.
He'd chosen that line in the first few laps of the race. He then followed Van Turenhout on the left-hand side of the course last lap, went back to that right-hand line and just dropped an absolute bomb of power. Just that Van der Poel line as we look at it on the left, the amount of speed he carries out of that sandpit. Meanwhile, the other riders best in the world, not even able to ride the sandpit, let alone carry that speed out the other side.
I think we heard that all over the world, that move. It was that powerful. He's waited, he's bided his time. Enter the Sandman, Mathieu van der Poel in that rainbow jersey on the descent. Van Turenhout looks back over the shoulder as Pidcock tries to use the descent to his advantage with Eli Isabets right behind him. But you have got to be with the world champion when he goes and over the top of the bridges. Dismounts, favours that, slings the bike round. We'll be able to glance across and see what damage he's doing already. Ooh, Tom Pidcock just going a little bit sideways as he gets caught in that rut, the Ineos Grenadiers man.
Those ruts are really, really deep at the bottom of that bridge now. That compression forcing the mud either side of the wheels, and that rut's getting very, very deep. But right now, chasing 3 they can come together, they might be able to work together on some of these road sections. Obviously, two teammates with Michael van Turnhout and Ellie is a bit within that group.
Mathieu van der Poel takes the steps, remounts at the top. He'll be roared on by the crowds. Come round at the end of lap 4 of 8. And Mathieu van der Poel, let's see what that attack has done. Pidcock attacks up the climb. The clock is ticking, and the gap is going to be 8 seconds. 8 seconds from Pidcock. If you're with us on the TV, you are off for a short break. Make sure you come back. Mathieu van der Poel is on a charge. Eight seconds. It's not a lot, but you don't get many errors from Mathieu van der Poel. Here comes Quentin Hermans, who's now up here in the top 10 now. Quentin Hermans in the blue of Alpecin-Deceuninck, ahead of Kem Cooney's in 11th. Van der Putte, Ferdinand Meen goes through. Thomas Meen in 14th. Marcel Meissen, Jolly Bertolini, Mikko Boros. Boros was up there until he had that chain issue. As Mathieu van der Poel now, along the side of the pitch. And we'll see how much this advantage now can grow, as Pidcock is just not giving up without a fight, as you can imagine here along the side of the football pitch. Tom Pidcock of Ineos Grenadiers chasing down Mathieu van der Poel. He knows that you've almost got to get him quickly if you can.
You have. Getting a replay now. Oh, Van der Putte just gets a little bit tight on those posts. Grabs hold of it, but loses the front end. Allows Thomas Meen to catch up onto that chasing group.
Mathieu van der Poel over the top of the blue bridge. Great shot here. Following the world champion, hits that rut. Where is Pidcock behind? There's the answer. The gap looks like it's extending, you would say, out to maybe 10+ seconds here, Ian.
It is. Looks like it's only going one way right now in that chasing group, down to 2, Pidcock and Iserbyt. They really need to close it down super fast if they can, but it looks like Pidcock distancing Iserbyt, and all the time that happens, it's just mano a mano on the next climb, and you kind of feel as though that's only going to go one way in this battle.
Onto the climb. This is the headwind. Tom Pidcock attacking up the climb. Iserbyt trying to stay with him. Van der Poel at the front. Can Pidcock use that climbing strength to try and close the gap down here to Mathieu van der Poel, who's just sat back here this evening, but this wind is really making a difference on this climb tonight.
Yeah, you see a few bike lengths back to Iserbyt at the bottom, but then because of that headwind, just uses that kind of slipstream and that rush to get back into the wheel of Pidcock, and that's going to probably discourage Pidcock from going all in with his chase. As you see now, Michael van Turnhout looking round. Nice doesn't want to take this one either. Van der Poel in full flight.
He really is. And the crowd roaring him on. Mathieu van der Poel, lap 5 of 8 here in Diegem this evening. The world champion is gone, but behind him, Great Britain's Tom Pidcock is trying to close it down. His long-term rival, Eli Iserbyt, is with him. Iserbyt chasing the general classification here in the Telenet Super Prestige series, and will continue to put the Telenet Super Prestige series out of sight of anyone else. He needed an absolute disaster over the final couple of rounds to really lose that lead, and he's riding well here, heading towards a podium position with Pidcock just ahead of him. Pidcock's just got to use these climbs and sections of this course that suit him. They've got to get on. I was literally about to say, if they can close it down before they hit the sand, but Van der Poel through the sand. This is where he attacked. Can Pidcock and Isabit manage to stay on the bike this time and ride it? Pidcock just trying to keep that bike through the sand. He manages to ride it this time. Does he get all the way to the end? You can see the power that both riders trying to put out here to stay on the bike, and they manage it. Nace and Van Turenhout go to the extreme right. Not managing to stay on the bike. The Stringer, Locks and Hoops all still here. Balwaza Trek Lions, 3 riders in this chasing group. But Tom Pidcock and Ailey Isabit managing to stay on through the sand this time.
They did stay on, but I was doing some time checks on the lead up to that. It was about 10 seconds before the sand pit and 13 afterwards. So Van der Poel taking 3 seconds out of Pidcock just in one sand pit. So although they stayed on the bikes, it just wasn't the same level of speed being carried through that section of the course.
Pidcock and Isabit on this sort of course. Look at Tom Pidcock just sprinting out of every corner. And he said in his interview with Matt Stevens in the week that he said he could rock into something like Namur and feel confident that he'd win it, and that's what he did. But he said it himself that these sort of courses takes him a few races to really just find his groove again.
Yeah, the super fast kind of tricky cyclocross skills he struggles with. He needs to practice those ones, and that's what we're seeing tonight. Don't worry, that's a lap rider, not second place, catching Van der Poel. 80% rule yet again not enough to keep riders from being lapped from Van der Poel.
Yes, lightning quick, you would say. It just means that riders don't quite hit that 80% mark because Mathieu Van der Poel and the others are lapping so quickly around this course. We're lining up for the steps. Dismount into this heavy mud as always. You have to dismount, run those steps. I'm sure Thibaut Nace would have a go at riding up the side of them if he can.
Rides that corner. Interesting, he'll gain a small advantage exiting this point, but Van der Poel up to the line once more.
Comes through at the end of a lap 5, and that gap has grown. Pidcock remounts. Out of the saddle, Isabit tries to get his feet back in. This climb up to the finish line. The gap now over the second goes up to 15 seconds. 16 and 17 seconds. So actually steady, and they went into the sand with about 10 seconds, and it grew considerably through there.
Yeah, 8 seconds taken in that first lap when Van der Poel attacked, and that's up to 16. So consistently taking 8 seconds per lap out of the chasers, as there's a bit of a lull in the action in the chasers going for 4th. No one really wants to take it on.
But Quentin Hermans does. He's in the background. Quentin Hermans, if you weren't with us on the opening lap, went down on the off-camber bank. As we always say, there's about 2 lines that you can take, and unfortunately Quentin Hermans went down, but he has just picked his way back through the field, and if he can get himself up here into a battle for 4th place, that would be some ride this evening from Hermans.
Pidcock obviously had trouble on that camber, running down off of the camber through that next section, so I presume he had a problem on the camber, went down perhaps off the bike.
Mathieu Van der Poel now the length and width of the football pitch, it looks like, as we head round by the football stadium. Pidcock and Isabit in chase. Isabit not look... Ooh, who is that? Thibaut Nace goes down. Lander Locks. Yeah, Lander Locks and Emil Verstringer, unfortunately. As you said, Quentin Hermans moves up towards this group as Nace, unfortunately, just cracks. She just gets out of that, gets out of the groove, and unfortunately, just completely takes out Lander Locks coming through. His bike's stuck on the ropes at the side. Yeah,
tried to lift that front wheel up onto that top ledge, but just caught it. Went down, and then unfortunately completely took out the stringer, who then took out Lander Locks. Looked like there was an issue for Nice. He'd gone down on that right hand side, and bike changes all around for those riders caught up in that. That's going to allow Quentin Hermans onto the back.
Quentin Hermans steadily making his way through the field, comes past. Great power for the teammate of Mathieu van der Poel. The Alpecin de Koenig rider at the front, the rainbow jersey, the World Road and Cyclocross champion. Here's Thomas Mean of Hope Factory Racing. Goes into the pits for a bike change. Just like Thibaut. Got a bit of an issue here, unfortunately. Thibaut Nace. That's such a shame because he's been going so well here this evening.
He was
Looks
doing
like
a
he's in
really good
considerable
ride.
pain.
Just went down hard on that right-hand side, the knee. Sven's there. With such a heavy period of racing, you don't want to kind of ride on something that's injured, going to be swelling during the race and perhaps cause more problems. Better to kind of pull out. He hasn't got an overall to go for, get some ice on it, get it elevated and move on to the next race, hopefully.
So Thibaut calls it a night. Oh, such a shame, isn't it? It's just after such a big start to the season. It's that sport, though, isn't it? The luck's just not going his way in this sort of middle part of the season.
It really isn't. Just when he looked like he was coming back to top form and challenging the leading groups in these races, but Van der Poel already round to that sand pit once more. He'll turn left into it. Isabit takes up the chase behind Pidcock, coming up to the sand pit as well. Interesting to see what happens.
It's just been, you kind of run out of things, you kind of run out of superlative to describe how he's riding, especially in the sand the last few races. And it was, let's have a little replay here of Thibaut. You can see that front wheel, but it all just caught his foot, then just went down on that right knee.
Yeah, just mistimed getting that front wheel up onto that top ledge, kind of almost lifted it too early, and it was going back down as he hit the ledge. See Pidcock and Isabit in the sand now. Pidcock desperately trying to stay in that rut, but just doesn't seem to have that explosive power in the legs. He's going in for a bike change, perhaps just to get off the front.
Yeah, good plan there. Tom Pidcock looks across at Elias, but he didn't look like he was giving Tom an awful lot of help in this group.
Definitely not. I mean, this rivalry goes way back. So, yeah, no love lost between these two.
Yes, this is up there as some of the biggest rivalries. Mathieu van der Poel, 153 pro victories that he's had, the 5 times world champion. We were kind of touching on it the other day in terms of could he be the best of the best of the best in what he's chasing in men's cycling. So, Eric de Vlaeminck, 7 times the world champion and over 200 wins. Marianne Vos, of course, is the 8 times world champion and 108 cyclocross victories alone, but she's got over 400 wins in all different disciplines. Sven Nys, of course, he's up there, sort of 270 individual pro wins, but only 2 world titles. And we kind of almost seem like, you know, for Sven, it's up there as the greatest of all time, but it seems that sometimes that just those world titles are something that people look at and think, well, he only won the worlds twice, but he was the best of the best of the best of, you know, his era as well.
It's very, very difficult to compare eras. Which races hold the most prestige? Is it kind of winning super prestige races, overalls, World Cup overalls, or is it all about those world championships? So it is very difficult to compare, but what you can say is Van der Poel is already up there as one of the greatest of all times. Just this season, 4 from 4 so far on a 7-race unbeaten streak from last season as well. 9 race wins here in Diegem, 2 as a junior, 1 as an under-23, 6 as elite. Last year was the first time he's ever been beaten on this course. It's just utterly ridiculous, the dominance he has in this sport at the moment.
And this was one of the big races that we first saw him coming through, didn't we? Because he didn't spend long as an under-23. He kind of went from junior to elite, didn't he, in terms of the wins, and up there with teammate Niels Albert at the time.
Exactly. I think it was Antwerp, maybe, where he rode up and
8 seconds to Isabet and Pidcock, who did everything that they could to stop the charge of Mathieu van der Poel, who went on lap 4. Quentin Hermans now up to 6th. What a ride. That is one of the rides of the night, watching Quentin Hermans ride back through this race.
Definitely. I'm sure he would have been going for that final podium spot, perhaps without that crash on the opening lap that saw him fall way back in the field. So we see more and more riders: Boris, Meissen, Van der Putte, Ferdinanda, Meen, Bertolini. Van der Putte, 3rd overall right now, joint with Joris Nieuwenhuis in terms of points. So he'll be losing that 2nd place today.
Eli Isabet has the last couple of days, just having a quick word with the pit crew there, just a shake of the head, not quite sure. Maybe something up with the tyres, perhaps, at this stage. Since their junior days. Tom's got the edge, actually, according to our friends over on Cyclocross 24. 50 to 37 if you put them head to head between against each other.
Yeah, I'd say Pidcock normally has the edge over Isabet in terms of the past, but this season Pidcock has looked good, but Isabet has also been very, very good up to this point. 6 wins this season already.
But also the careers, different trajectories. Eli Isabet, very much the pure cross rider. Tom Pidcock, world Olympic mountain bike champion, Strade Bianche, Tour de France stage wins up on the top of Alpe d'Huez. Tour de France next year, big target for Tom Pidcock, and Eli Isabet is content just to be the crossman.
Yeah, completely different goals and objectives. So it's just interesting to see how the combination comes together on a balmy night in Diegem, even though they're completely different in terms of what they want to do with their careers, what they've done, where they're going, sort of thing. So it's why we love cross, all the different riders from the different disciplines coming together and duking it out for an hour of racing in the Belgian mud.
And Tom was saying to Matt Stevens in his interview as well that the reason he comes into cross and the reason he still comes back to cross, and it's the reason why Mathieu and Wout van Aert come back in, Tom was saying he just cannot get the intensity that you get from an hour of cross racing in training. No, and also it keeps you on track, I think. It's very easy on a wet Wednesday morning to get up, and if your goal is the Tour de France next July, then perhaps you're thinking, oh, knock an hour off because it's raining and it's cold. But if you're racing on the Saturday, then you're definitely going to go out, do your intervals and do the training and dot the I's and cross the T's as such. So it keeps you focused through those winter months. It's something about pinning a number on as well, isn't it? It keeps that fire, I think, always racing in the winter and racing cross. Definitely. It's you never go quite as hard in a race, but maybe going for a KOM perhaps, or a Zwift race. He's really thinking about this now, and Tom Pidcock just sat behind him. We'll see how this rivalry plays out, because neither of these two will want to be beaten by the other one. No, they're firmly racing for second now. Just need to be a little bit aware of Michael van Turnhout, Joris Nieuwenhuis, and perhaps even Quentin Hermans coming that little bit closer. Quentin Hermans. He has the loudest fan club in cyclocross, he always says, Quentin Hermans, and his ambitions also lie on the road. There's Emil Vestringer in the green and white. Ward Hoops having another great day out for Baloise Trek Lions, and then Lander Locks in the light blue of Tour de Timmer. Back to the front to Mathieu van der Poel in front of an enormous crowd. I don't know about you, in this crowd, it seems like one of the biggest that we've seen here in a long time. I mean, granted that we were here last year, it was Wout van Aert. We had 2 years for COVID where it was cancelled because it's in the town, and then 6 Mathieu van der Poel victories before that. But it just seems like one of the biggest, more loudest crowds that we've had here at Diegem for a while.
Definitely, it's the Christmas break from football in Belgium, so you get an awful lot of football fans there as well, coming out. You see the flags on the left-hand side, so yeah, kind of a crowd that perhaps isn't always at every single cross, and the crowds just go through the roof, especially when this man is racing. It'd be interesting to see the numbers afterwards. We had over 15,000 at Havre the other day, and it looks like a huge crowd there tonight in Diegem.
I'm thinking, I'm guessing, we'll try and update you on the numbers in coming days. I'm thinking we'll go back to Bertolini. Ferdinand.
Oh,
no. Anton Ferdinand. Oh, goes down there. Is he all right? Ouch.
That's a really horrible one, losing it on the first plank and going over the bars at speed. I really hope he's okay. That was a really nasty one. 2 chasers now coming up to receive the bell. 1 lap of racing to go.
Michael Van Turenhout and Joris Nieuwenhuis are your race for 4th, but can Quentin Hermans close back up on this final lap? Iserbyt looks across at Pidcock. A chaser's come out of the bottom corner. 54 seconds from Mathieu van der Poel to Tom Pidcock and Eli Iserbyt. We're over the minutes to Michael Van Turenhout and Joris Nieuwenhuis. Michael Van Turenhout, I think, is going to take some confidence from this tonight. He couldn't go with Mathieu van der Poel. He was matching him in the sand, but just couldn't quite go deep enough when Van der Poel went. They quite a gap, 13 seconds from Nieuwenhuis back to Hermans, just in front of Emil Verschringer. But Michael Van Turenhout's got to take a boost from tonight, I think.
He really has. It's a course that suits him. He's had a 2nd and a 3rd here previously, as well as 5th last year. So somewhere that he does well. Just a small slip for Pidcock there as he takes his hands off the bars, try and swing the bike round those U-turns, but loses the front as a result, unweighting those handlebars. Always tell people you need a little bit of weight on the handlebars, pushing through that front wheel to keep the grip through it. But yeah, no such problem while you're leading. No time lost.
We'll see if we get any Mathieu van der Poel. Oh, no, Elisabeth, little dab there. Just has to dab that foot on the power, on the gas, back up to Pidcock. We'll see if Mathieu decides to cross it up over the bridges tonight. Normally we get a little bit of showboating, a little bit of flair over the top.
Yeah, it might be a little bit too windy for that one.
Yeah, you don't want to take off and land in the crowd.
Definitely not. Looks like Van Turenhout and Nieuwenhuis coming a little bit closer as these two continue to look at each other.
Yeah, this is, as we said, this is a huge rivalry between these two. Can the Paalshuis Bingo and Baloise Trek Lions riders behind close up? If you weren't with us at the beginning of the show, the man in 2nd wheel here in the red and black of Paalshuis Bingo, Eli Iserbyt, going into this evening with 86 points to Joris Nieuwenhuis' 61, who's in the group with the teammate Michael Van Turenhout teammate of Eli Iserbyt, Michael Van Turenhout, who started the day in 7th with 38 points. But this podium position tonight from Eli Iserbyt will secure that this Telenet Super Prestige Series for this winter, with 1 race to go, 1 round to go. We have round 8, the Noordseecross in Middelkerke on the 10th of February. Mathieu van der Poel at the head of the race. Another outstanding performance this evening, heading towards Pro Win 154 for Mathieu van der Poel this evening, coming into this season in incredible form, and we didn't think he could get any better and any more stylish and powerful in cyclocross. He has come in like a force of nature this winter. Pidcock and Iserbyt locked in the battle for 2nd and 3rd. For Tom Pidcock last year, he was 2nd behind Wout van Aert. It was the big 3 that were racing for the win last year. Ian, we keep saying it's hard to to wonder how he could get any better than he already was. But the show of strength that he's putting on as Isabit attacks over the top here of Tom Pidcock, the Ineos Grenadiers man, answers that call.
Pidcock just taking a big, long look round to assess the situation. How much can they play around? But I'm sure Isabit's going to try and attack him through the sand and over the planks for the final time.
He may feel that he's got the measure of Tom Pidcock through the sand. He'll want to lead. Pidcock's managed to make it through. Maybe sort of one occasion on this, but he's definitely delayed Isabit the last time through the sand. For our leader, though, it's been no such as we go through a little Mexican wave from the crowd. The party definitely is on here this evening in Diegem.
Very much so. Reminds me of Cross of old, when the spectators were basically in the course and parted just as the riders got there. But Van Turnhout in the background, closing in into the sand for the final time.
Elias a bit into the sand. Look at his face, trying to just find that rut, that bike dancing around underneath him. Isabit stays on. Does Pidcock manage to do the same? Yes, he does, but Isabit manages to open that gap. But Michael Van Turnhout, who's been super strong throughout the sand this evening, attacks out of the sand, carries that speed. Can he close himself up towards Tom Pidcock here? Both riders take the planks. Van Turnhout's closing strongly here.
He is. I think he can sniff a podium place.
Mathieu van der Poel. It is definitely the Van der Poel show here in cyclocross, when the world champion comes out to play, and he has put on an absolute show here again this evening.
He has. I think potentially this is the most impressive ride for me. Just the way he was able to open up that gap immediately, and then just continue to press on, continue to open up that gap behind. And yeah, just super impressive from him tonight. Pidcock, look at the urgency that he's gone through that alleyway, chasing down Eli Isabit. But here comes Van der Poel down, final time up the steps, and then the short finish straight up to that line.
Tom Pidcock is throwing everything at the chase here of Isabit, who managed to carry good speed through the sand. Yet again, Mathieu van der Poel's 7th win here in Diegem. 154 professional victories. The world champion, ever the showman, the Sandman, does it again here in Diegem. That big, powerful attack that he put in on lap 4 hands in the victory. It could come down to the dismount and the remount as Pidcock just tries to close up to Isabit before that final little turn and that run up the steps, and he makes contact now. Pidcock goes up the inside. Ooh, whoa. It's getting spicy out here this evening. Pidcock dive bombs up the inside. It's all about the remount and swiftly getting those feet back into the pedals. Isabit shakes the head. Pidcock comes back. It is going to be second again for Tom Pidcock here in Diegem this evening, mirroring his performance from a year ago. It's Van der Poel, Pidcock and Isabit is your podium. Michael Van Turnhout crosses the line in 4th. Nieuwenhuis will take 5th. Isabit secures the Telenet Super Prestige Series overall, but Mathieu van der Poel is the king. What a finish. And it's not done yet. We've got this group now racing for the steps.
Sprint finishes all the way, but what a ride by Quinton Herman. 6th place for him.
I think salute chapeau doesn't even come close. Ride of the night, you've got to say there, from Quinton Hermans. And our sprint from that group